Not laughing.
No, you're laughing. I'm not laughing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of A.N.I.M.E, Average Nerds Inspect Mass Entertainment. I'm your not host.
No, wow, I thought we weren't using our real names.
Oh, fine. Then I'm Grenchler.
But now they know your real name.
Well, then I'll just bleep that part out.
Okay, so you're Grenchler. I go by Whooper.
Who refers to you as Whooper? Is it like your mom or your brother? Or
Well, I mean, I'm referred to that way because that's my real name, because that's the name that my mom gave me.
Your mom gave you the name Whooper.
She named me after a Pokemon that wasn't going to be released until like 10 years after I was born.
Insane amount of foresight.
Yeah.
Am I right? So this is going to be a podcast where we talk about classic anime that have come out forever ago and new seasonal shows. We're just going to give our thoughts on them and why they're good, bad, interesting, or groundbreaking even for some of them.
Sure. I mean, at least one of the shows that we're discussing today was groundbreaking in its time. And I think that once we get to January of next year, when a new season starts, I guess that would be the winter 2018 season, then we would do mostly seasonal shows. But for right now, since we're just working our way into it, we're going to be talking about some classics, some old stuff, as well as a show that came out 2 years ago that I'm not sure why we're watching, but we'll get to that.
Maybe it's because I happen to like it, or I thought it was cool. I don't know.
Maybe it will be cool after the first episode.
Okay.
Which wasn't.
Yeah, nothing really happened, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
As far as our qualifications, if those even exist, I watch Western television, so I watch good TV.
Uh-huh.
And this guy over here writes for anime blogs.
That's right. You can find me on Starcrossed Anime Blog. There will be a link to that in the description, I guess. I feel a little odd.
Link in the description.
Yeah, I feel a little
Merch
odd.
link in bio.
I feel a little odd saying that. I've never said that before, and I feel like I've sold out already, even though we have no plans to monetize this. At least I don't. But I do. I wrote for a blog called Anime March Madness. That was of my own creation. Now I write for a team blog called Starcrossed Anime, which has actually been running since 2004. Back in the day, like before YouTube, it was kind of an institution. The guy who created it and who wrote for it all those years ago, he's gone now. He only pops his head in every once in a while, but there's still some work being done over there, so you can find me there if you're so interested.
Cool. So what shows are we going to be watching the rest of this current season?
Well, we're doing 3 shows from this season, and those are Mahoutsukai no Yome, Children of the Whales. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce its Japanese name. And Inuyashiki. I think those are the 3 that we came to the conclusion. You know, we looked at the seasonal chart and we thought that those would be, fun to watch and hopefully good, not trash.
I do prefer good television to trash television, although I do love me some trashy TV shows. Let me say.
I mean, you watch Western TV, so you're gonna love trash.
Oh! And as far as the classics that we're going to be watching, classic is obviously relative to one of them's definitely not a classic, and the other one is to some people, are Overlord,
right,
which is definitely not a classic, but I thought it looked interesting, so that's my fault.
And just for clarification, that was Grenchler who said that. I just want to, in case our voices are really similar, I just want that on the record that it was not me who recommended that we watch
fine.
Overlord.
It was me, Grenchler, the pleb, suggested we watch Overlord.
Right.
And I also suggested that we watch Hellsing Ultimate.
Right. The 2006 OVA, not the television show from a few years before that.
It was 2003, wasn't it?
No, it was 2006, and then they produced 10 episodes that they were released over the span of like 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, the show was 2003.
Oh, maybe.
And the OVA was 06 to 12.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's right.
Either way. And the last one is one of the king of classics, Eva, or yes. Evangelion.
Yes. Since we're doing half-seasonal shows, of course, I haven't seen all of those, and I haven't seen either Overlord or Hellsing Ultimate before. But I have seen Eva, and I have a lot of admiration for it, And I also really enjoy watching it whenever I watch it. I've seen it through probably twice. However, I'm not an expert on it, so, I'll probably be making mistakes left and right, especially since so much of the show is open to interpretation. And there's a lot of information that you need to observe in the background. It's not really given to you via exposition or like on-screen text or dialogue or
translators' notes where they put a paragraph next to what's going on.
Oh, I'm sure there are, sub-jobs of Eva that have all those translators' notes, and they might actually be really helpful. But if you're ever confused about something, you can just go on Eva Geeks, which is a big forum, message board, website resource for all things Evangelion. And it's
expansive.
Yeah, and it's really necessary too, because if you watch it for the first time, you don't know what the hell's going on.
I've never seen it before. So this will be my first time watching it. So that'll be fun and experience. And yeah, it's going to be lots of things.
Well, you've already seen the first 2 episodes. We watched only 1 episode of all of these, except for Ava, because you had already seen the first episode. We had watched it together like a while ago.
Yeah.
So we watched the first 2 so we would have new stuff to talk about.
Okay.
So which one, what show should we start with?
Well, we've been rambling about Eva for a while, so why don't we just go ahead and start with that one?
Okay, sure. I got some notes over here. I'm going to pull those up.
Click.
Yeah, they can probably hear the click. That's fine.
All right.
So what were your impressions of both episodes, let's say, taken together?
Taken together, separate, they're really kind of very different episodes. Because the first half of the first episode, really, you can't make sense. Nothing really makes sense as to what's going on because it's introducing a ton of characters and a world and everything like that, which is the same with every show. When you start with something new, there's always a ton of exposition because you got to explain everything.
I actually don't think that Ava is like that. I think it bucks that trend and it resists it because it says it's set in the year 2015, and there's just a bunch of shots of an empty.
It's the year 2015, and Donald Trump is poised to be the next president.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and then the angels come.
Yeah, the angels are what we're gonna need to save us from a Donald Trump presidency. we're getting political, man.
Oh man, no, but Eva saves us from the angels. The angels are the bad guys, right?
Okay.
Or
yes, the angels are the bad guys.
Okay.
You have.
I'm hoping there's not some like deep spiritual revelation halfway through where we're like fighting against the will of like Mother Nature or something.
Well, I mean, speaking of spirituality, there is some Christian imagery in Ava. I don't know if you picked this up, but some explosions result in like cross-shaped mushroom clouds. So I already kind of know the significance of this, and it's not a spoiler. So I'd be interested in hearing what you thought of that. What significance do you think it has, or like how did you feel about it?
That's a good question. I didn't really think that it had a huge significance. I thought it maybe just had to do with when it blew up, part of it flew up higher and then that exploded out to the side. Maybe it was just how the creature was designed or something like that.
So you were thinking about it in terms of like mechanics and logistics.
Right. Even though it's most likely that the angels are bio. They're not mechanic, just like the Avas aren't mechanic. They're creatures.
Well, they are robots, but yes, there is a biological component to the Ava, which is really important going forward in the story. And yeah, the angels are also, they're not robots either, at least as far as I remember. You can see, I think in the second episode, maybe you can see like the first angel that attacks them. It kind of has flaps where it breathes.
Is it a fish?
I mean, it's not. It's not underwater.
Did it evolve from a fish?
Dude, I don't remember where the angels came from. There's a big long explanation for it. I'm sure once we get to the end of the show, you probably won't figure it out. I can't even remember right now. I'm struggling to remember.
Well, what I meant earlier about the exposition thing was just there are lots of car rides. Someone's always on the phone in the car or explaining what's going on to the other character, because you start with our main hero protagonist, who I can never remember the name of people in these shows.
Shinji,
thank you. Who's basically just making my way downtown, feeling good, and then explosions everywhere.
It's not like that at all, dude. He is in that location where we first see him because he was summoned. He has that picture of Misato like leaning over with the cleavage. She lured him to this spot so she could pick him up and take him to Nerve HQ.
Right.
He's not just making his way downtown.
No, but
nobody would be because the sirens are blaring and the PSAs are coming out. Like
it's like, man, but I gotta find this girl. It just I could die, but gonna be worth it.
Yeah, and I think that if the show were made now, like in 2017, a much bigger deal would be made out of the fact that she had sent in this picture and he was like, he was fiending, he was like thirsty. Where is this girl? But it's not like that in Eva because he has the picture. And I mean, I think you can assume that that's why he's there was because the photo, it's a titillating photograph or whatever.
Sure.
But he doesn't get like the heart eyes and the tongue like sticking out of his mouth
and
when he eventually
starts doing
meets
like
her.
the little floating animation where he's just like turns
into
into like a piece of paper and floats behind him.
Piece of paper.
Okay. They kind of get like thin and like wavy sometimes.
I think I've probably seen that.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, that's just what I meant by a lot. By there is a lot of explaining that has to be done in the start of it. And one question that I always wondered is like, this is your city, New Tokyo 3. What happened to the other two? And then the original?
I mean, they got destroyed, dude.
Right. But the Angels came 15 years ago. How long were they there? Were they there and then they rebuilt the city while they were destroying another part of the world? Then they came back and destroyed it. They're like, darn, we got to start over with another Tokyo.
Probably. I mean, I've seen the show a couple times, but once was a long time ago and once was a couple years ago. So I don't really remember the chronology, the timeline. And there are a lot of other details that I forget. But if you really pay attention while you watch, some of those questions will be answered for you. And the ones that aren't, I mean, just like go on Ava Geeks and look it up.
Just look up somebody who's analyzed every frame.
Yeah, that's the kind of show for which that kind of analysis exists.
Speaking of frames, something I found interesting in the show's animation, which may have something to do with the type of animation due to its age, but still shots weren't perfectly still. Everything was kind of shifting a little bit because it was it's not like laser precision like it is now. But I thought that actually made still shots more interesting. Rather than everything being completely static, there was the motion that it kind of gave it a sense that it was live, even though a character wasn't specifically moving.
Right. Well, that's just a product of cell animation.
Right.
Because the show's movement is a result of the cells, moving one at a time, being shown one at a time. And it was a physical process. It wasn't all digital like it is now.
Right.
But there is a certain character and a certain charm and like a certain appeal to watching stuff that's been put to cell. Because it does have a little bit of jerkiness to it, I guess. But I like it. I mean,
yeah, I liked it too. I mean, the animation's outstanding. The backgrounds are all exquisitely detailed and everything looks really good. I mean, it looks a lot better than some of the shows that come out now.
Yeah, that was a big selling point for it, I think, back when it came out. There were a whole bunch of reasons why Eva took Japan by storm, and eventually America, because it did come over here and it was pretty successful and influential, I think.
Except for the dub.
Not
the
as
dub
much.
Was not successful.
I mean, the dub is what was shown on TV, so it was probably more successful than the sub version is here. Yeah, it was bad. I know you tried to watch it that way, and it was awful.
Yeah, I always try to watch the dub because English is my first language, but it's unbearable half the time. So Japanese voice actors just know it. They're
Well, they
do it more often.
It's much a bigger industry over there.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to talk about, I was curious to get your opinion on this because you've never seen it. Tell me if you remember this. Shinji is on the payphone. We were talking about the fact that he has Misato's picture and he's looking for her. He's on the payphone, and it doesn't work, right? Because he gets a little message saying because of the citywide shutdown or whatever, this payphone is not in operation. Then he looks up from the payphone and he sees Rei, the blue-haired girl.
Right.
and then some birds fly or something, and they make some squawking noise or whatever that distracts him. So he looks up, he sees the birds fly away, he looks back to where he saw Rey,
and she's gone.
not there. How do you explain that? You can't explain that.
I can't explain that. No, fever dream? I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I remember what you're talking about, but I always thought that those were... You know, they talk a lot about that that these EVAs put a lot of stress on their pilots, their kids. It sort of, at least to me, kind of in the way that like in Gundam, how people have to be kind of built to be able to properly interface with the mobile suits. That maybe these kids were engineered or built in order to properly function with the are they called the EVAs, the mechs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're EVAs.
And so maybe that has some side effects as to whether they see visions or images, or they have like an empathetic connection to the other ones. So she's off fighting and he sees her because she's in like emotional stress or something, because she had just been knocked out when he came into Nerve HQ, and she's like, she can't fight for another 20 days. You know, she can't pilot, and she's all bandaged up and she's on stretchers. So that, if I were to look into it further than just like a storytelling device, that's what I would see.
And that's really interesting. I don't think I had considered it in quite that way. In response to that argument, or I guess that interpretation, think about the fact that Shinji has never piloted an EVA before, and he's taken aback when he sees EVA 01, which is the one that he eventually gets into,
right,
for the first time.
Yeah,
he's not aware that that's his role. He's not a pilot yet, when we first meet him. So I guess what you're saying is that
he's not even a pilot in the second episode.
Yeah, not really. So I guess what you're saying is that he, like, maybe as a child was implanted with something, or
implanted or manipulated or some way in order to be able to handle, because they talk about like neural connections and stuff like that.
Right. You have to sync with your EVA.
Right. And not just anyone can.
Yeah.
Which means I feel like they have to be engineered or created for that purpose.
The people who are piloting them.
The people who are pilots, yeah.
I see. Okay.
And that's also why they're young and why they're less than 15, because they were created in response to the original Angel attacks.
So do you think are you saying that you don't think that they're like real human beings?
I think they might be real human beings, but they were modified, like genetically modified to be able to interface with these giant machines.
Oh, dude, I didn't even consider the fact that they were as old as the first Angel attack, if that's when the Angels attacked in 2000, 15 years before the events of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So that's a good stab at like what's going on behind the scenes in EVA, because there is a lot more going on than just kid gets in robot, kid fights angels.
And right at the end of the second episode, you had like the shadow government and the people controlling the strings from the world.
Right. Well, you see the boardroom meeting or whatever, where it's all dark and they're all lit up in different colors.
Each of them are different colors. And
they reference something called the Human Instrumentality Project, which they seem to think of as much more important than
the EVA project.
Yeah. Or the angels, or even the fate of the world. Like, the Human Instrumentality Project to them is more important than anything.
Right.
But we don't know what that is yet.
Right.
And that gets more and more important as we get closer and closer to the conclusion.
Right. Which we're very far away from.
Yeah. It is 26 episodes. A lot of these shows are just like 12, 13, because that's the trend now for newer ones. But this is 26. So maybe we can watch 2 episodes every week.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right.
Was there anything else that you wanted to glance over on that?
About Eva?
About Eva?
Yeah. Let me get your impressions of Misato's personality and living conditions.
I think, and this is just a way that you can characterize a lot of people who live in that manner. I mean, that manner being a complete slob.
Okay, there you go.
And an alcoholic. And also, I wanted to mention the hot spring penguin. What? The penguin that lives with them.
Yeah, I'm
Just called a hot.
why you gotta talk shit about the penguin?
Why? Okay.
I mean, it's anime, so there has to be like a cute.
Has to be the cute animal that pushes you forward to victory. I don't know.
Well, Evangelion.
But as for why she's like that, it's
Well, just your impressions. Like what.
She's a slob. She has a high stress job, and she unwinds, and rather than taking time out of her personal time to do something that would be considered like chores or work to clean or cook, rather than just doing instant meals, she just does what's quick, easy, and fuck the mess, right. Essentially.
Yeah, there's a. She's quite a character. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, at this point, all you know about her really is that she's kind of clumsy. Like, she gets lost in Nerve HQ.
Right.
She is a slob. She invites a teenage, like, adolescent boy to come live with her.
Right.
And she's a little, like, you can tell right from the beginning she's a little strange.
She's not all there.
I mean, if she has this job, she's probably quite qualified.
Right.
I mean, you would hope. But that's another thing about Eva is like the United Nations can't stop this robot in the first episode.
Sure.
So then they're given control of the operation.
Guns, nuclear mines, nothing's working.
I don't know what that was. But Nerve is given control of the operation, but there's they're not like, they're not confident that it's going to work, because
they're like, well, we might as well try.
Well, at one point, I think Ritsuko says to Misato, there's like a 0.0000001% chance of success, like that
right.
Shinji will sync with this Eva.
Right.
And she's like, what? Then shouldn't we not do this? Because he's probably just going to get killed. And she's like, oh, don't be absurd. It's not a 0% chance. Because the world's about to end, so they're going to send this Eva out. Their best pilot is on the sideline. She's all messed up. And they're just gambling.
Right.
To Gendo, who is Shinji's dad, it's not a gamble, because he's
like, this will work.
Yeah.
This has to work.
Well, you would think that he probably knows something about his son and about Eva 01 that would, like, their compatibility. Because remember, the robot moves on its own.
It's like, save.
Yeah.
Meh.
So we've been talking about Evangelion for like 15 minutes or something, so that's probably good. Let's do another one. Which one should we do next?
Let's do the, what's the Japanese name for this?
Mahoutsukai no Yome.
Okay, so the ancient magus' bride.
Yeah. You want to ask me questions about this one, or just like to get us started? Because I mostly interrogated you about Eva.
Yeah, well, that's because it's my first time seeing it. Right. But have you seen any more than I have of this? Have you seen more than an episode?
Nope, I've only seen one episode of all the rest of these shows.
Okay, all right. Well, then for this show, starts off slave auction, girl left from life where she wasn't wanted, where people didn't like her, right. Or she'd been passed around through foster families or whatever.
Right.
And she's like, why don't you be sold to somebody who actually wants you? And then tall motherfucker comes in and he's like, yo, $5 million, let's go. Buys her and leaves. Yeah. And everyone's like, I thought he hated people.
It was not only was she passed around between relatives. I think she does say,
yeah, they were relatives.
Yeah, so it wasn't foster families, it was relatives. Not only was she passed around between homes and she never fit in anywhere, and not only was she not really welcomed at any of the schools.
She was suicidal as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, because I think that's only implied, but...
Because she's up on a roof when the guy comes up to her.
Yeah, like the roof of a school, and the guy said, that's when the guy says, why don't you live with somebody who actually cares about you and wants you?
Right.
And that's the thing about this show is that, like, she's valuable. She has value to
to the mage.
Elias. I guess that's how you say his name, because his name is like Elias Ainsworth.
Yeah, or
because the show's set in England.
Right, the Thorn Mage.
Yeah, that's his nickname. She has value to him, so he definitely wants her. Not only because she's a slay beggar or whatever, and that she like attracts.
Slay Billy. Yeah. That's how they say it, I think.
Yeah. She attracts spirits and stuff, so she's not only valuable in that way, but he also intends to marry her or whatever.
Right.
But does he actually want her? Like, because that's how the slave auction guy or the, whatever, that's how he sells it to her. Like, why don't you try to find a home where somebody wants you? But does he actually want her around? He takes her in as an apprentice.
Right.
And he says to her that he intends to marry her.
And to treat her like family as well.
Yeah, but I never got that from any of his actions. I didn't get the sense that he really wanted to have her around. I mean, if he's gone and purchased her and spent so much of his own money and like is going to invest time in teaching her and grooming her to be a perfect bride or whatever,
right.
Then there's something, he has something to gain. A wife and a helpful assistant who's going to bring like fairies and sprites and whatever right to his door. But does he actually does he feel any kind of way about her?
I think that's something that remains to be seen. I'd find it hard pressed to find somebody who would essentially get a mail order bride and not want them. Think about it, £5 million.
Well, that's kind of what
that's a lot of money.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, is that a lot of people who might purchase a mail order bride, they don't want the person.
They want the
wife.
Right. They want the wife. They don't care who it is.
Yeah, and what might make them choose one, mail order bride over another is the way they look.
I feel like it's possible that, just as obviously as the show's going to go on, girl becomes more attached to mage becomes more attached to girl. I think initially he purchased her for the purpose of her abilities,
right,
and her personality will grow on him or something, and vice versa, because that's how this is obviously going to play out, unless there's some Shyamalan twist at the end.
Do you think that it's going to be like a straight up romance?
It won't be like super straight up, but if you just watch the theme song, there's clips from the whole season in it.
Oh, I don't remember that much about the OP.
Yeah. I'm pretty positive it's going to be just a straight romance with a cool setting.
I do remember about the OP that the first half of it was mostly like static shots of her like in the darkness, and then in the second half, you're right, there were a bunch of quick cuts between like different characters who are going to be introduced and like kind of actiony looking scenes, and there was probably a scene where one of them was crying or something and the other one wipes away their tear. That's like a staple in anime OPs. So I do remember that about the OP now. But I'm not convinced that it's going to the way I would like to see the show go is the bride thing gets called off.
Or like the wedding gets called off.
She becomes, like she is clumsy at first or whatever and can't get a handle on her magic, but then something clicks and she's able to, get a handle on her powers, and then she becomes really powerful or whatever, and he sees her as kind of like an equal, and then, maybe they can decide to continue living together, but there's not so much of a, oh, you're my property and you're gonna be my bride. And I mean, I would be the thing about that kind of plot line is that it's 2017, so you kind of it might rub you the wrong way.
You just start a sentence with "It's 2017, man."
I don't think I started the sentence that way,
but you used it in a sentence.
I did. I'd probably say it in 2017 or is 2017 like once a week, even in real life.
By that I cannot abide.
Okay, well you don't have to, because I'm talking.
Okay, that's fair.
I forgot what I was talking about though. I kind of remember. I would be more okay. Kind of paradoxically, I would be more okay with it being a romance and him being like, you're my bride, you're like my wife, kind of my property. I'd be more okay with that if there was more of an inkling of romance just in the first episode, like to set the tone.
Right.
But he was like helping her bathe. Do you remember that scene
Yeah.
where, and she's like afterwards, oh no, he saw everything. Like he's helping her bathe, and he's calling her my puppy and stuff, but he's doing it like really clinically. Probably not like to avoid scaring her or coming on too strong or whatever, but all the same, it's odd how, like, you know, how he's acting like more of a teacher and even a father at this point. I don't know. I'm definitely interested in the show because it looks good.
Right.
There's a lot of different ways that it can go. I like magical premises or however you say that.
Sure.
So I'm into that kind of show. I'm into that kind of premise. But I don't know how I feel about either of the main characters right now.
One thing that they haven't answered yet, that could explain like possibly his behavior. How old is he?
Don't they say that he's like a zillion or something?
No, they don't. I don't think they directly say how old he is. But if he's a mage, it's possible that he's like a zillion years old. So the way that he treats people is completely different.
You mean like he's abiding by codes of chivalry from the Middle Ages or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe they didn't say how old he was. They did like kind of establish that magic is a dying art.
Does he have a face? Or is his head literally a skull?
I don't know, dude. I'm maybe his head got cut off.
And he replaced it with a deer's skull.
Yeah, why not?
Just, add that just next level of mysticism to your magic.
Well, there are the rumors like surrounding him, or I guess the aura that he doesn't like people. So maybe he fashioned himself that way in order to drive people off. But now he's,
because he walks around town with a cloth over his head,
right?
So that you can't see that he's a skull.
Yeah, or a skull guy.
Yeah, and he's also like 8 feet tall.
He's real tall.
Yeah,
he's a real tall boy.
He's a real tall boy. Mm-hmm.
All right, we want to move to another one.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the show. I like it.
I think it's cool, and I think it'll be interesting to see what other parts of that world that they explore, because we saw the fairies and how they're not actually called fairies, but that's how she refers to them.
Right, and we also saw his Silver was the name of his maid.
Right,
who she hardly talked at all, so that she's probably got some kind of. Oh yeah, because it's anime and they're all yeah.
But you can't tell.
Yeah, that's
you don't know.
I feel like I can kind of tell.
Okay,
but maybe I'll be wrong, and then
could be.
I might be gay.
We're just gonna have to find out.
Yeah,
just gonna have to keep watching to find out.
Tune in next week on Mahoutsukai no Yome, see whether or not you're gay.
Cool. So
we want to move to another older one.
One of our older shows. Let's do Overlord.
Okay. So why? First of all, tell me why you wanted to watch this one.
I was actually a recommendation from a friend.
Okay.
A friend who I had recommended a couple shows to, which were all classics, like Shampoo and Bebop and stuff like that. They'd never seen.
Right. Baby's first
good anime. And then they recommended this to me, and I saw the opening or something for it, and it looked pretty cool. I saw the animation was cool. I didn't know anything about the premise really.
I mean, didn't you know that it was like we're trapped in a video game?
I vaguely knew that it was about that, but I didn't know it was like almost the exact same plot as SAO.
And that's Sword Art Online. For those of you at home,
for those of you who aren't familiar with the smash hit of the last
decade, it might be the biggest anime of the last decade.
Somehow,
God help us.
But it was a recommendation from a friend. Right. I had it and I wanted to watch it, and this seemed like a good opportunity for us to go through it. I know it's done by a good studio.
Well, at this point, Madhouse is. They're not the same as they once were. It's not the same talent pool that they're drawing on, because a lot of their people have gone to MAPPA, and even beyond that, I think that MAPPA has had a studio spinoff from them, which is called like M2 or something. So
they're like record labels; they just keep spinning off each other.
Yeah,
keep you guessing.
I guess so. So it's not the same Madhouse as the
classic
Madhouse.
Lay classics.
Right.
Pinky up.
So yeah, it's I mean, it's not the same Madhouse.
So what did you think about the
Well, first of all, I was also kind of interested in watching Overlord. Every so often I go back through like recent years to try to find shows that I haven't seen that might be worth watching. Because I think I've seen, at this point, I've been working my way back year by year through anime, and I think I've seen most of, the stuff that I would really like to watch from probably 2000 to 2017. So every once in a while I go back through. So Overlord, I think, is from 2015. So I was eyeing that show as one of the ones that I might want to watch because I had heard that it was uncommonly good for a show of this genre. Based on the first episode, I'm completely unconvinced.
Nothing happens.
I regret.
Nothing happens in the first episode.
Hold on.
It takes up 22 minutes to set up the plot and introduce like 4 characters.
Yeah, but other shows take 22 minutes to establish themselves.
They don't even leave the same spot.
They do, but other shows might take that same amount of time to establish the same amount of information, but do it in a much more interesting way.
I suppose,
or give you in the course of establishing itself, its fictional universe and its rules and all that. And in addition to doing all that stuff, other shows might convince you that the characters are worth caring about in the course of 22 minutes.
Right.
But this show didn't do that for me. Like,
no.
Oh man.
Here, let me just edit this NPC to love me and want my dick.
I mean, you use the wrong voice, right? Because he has the 2 voices. When he's thinking to himself...
He's thinking to himself. He's like a nerdy teenager. And then when he's outside, he's regal and Skullmaster McLordy face.
Right. He has those 2 voices, which I kind of liked because it's an illustration of the fact that...
It differentiates the player from the character.
Right, and it gives you a sense of... It tells you there's a real person on the other side of this computer screen. And we didn't see... the real person. We didn't go into the real world at all. And I was like, I mean, as silly as it is to want this trapped in a video game show to be the same as every other, we're trapped in a video game show. I'm wondering, like, why even make a show like this? It was probably adapted from some garbage source material, like some light novel nobody cares about or something. But why make this kind of story if you're not going to give us the real world and give us the virtual world and kind of, explore the differences between them or establish stakes outside of the virtual world? Like, why not just make a fantasy series without all this bullcrap about... What's up?
I think because it establishes a different motive behind, because if we took away the dive virtual reality whatever element and it was just the main character who's ultimate mixed skull dude who's like the lord of like essentially what would be a dungeon in an MMO.
Yeah.
You're just a group of NPCs. Why would you watch a show about that?
Why would you watch a show about what? You lost me.
Why would you watch a show about literally NPCs in a tower?
Oh, well, I mean, at the end of the episode, they bring in all the non-NPC guys.
Right, they're all the different levels of the NPC. Those are all NPCs.
Right. Wait, what? No.
They're all NPCs.
No.
They're all NPCs. They're the guardians of each of the floors of the castle.
They're not NPCs, dude.
Yes, they are.
No, the girl, Albedo, or whatever her name is.
The rest of them are NPCs,
She's
too.
an NPC.
The rest of them are NPCs. They're the guardians of each of the floors.
Yeah, I recognize that they're the guardians of each of the floors, but are they...
They are NPCs. They are not players.
All those new people who
assemble? Yes, they are all NPCs. They are not humans.
That makes me hate the show even more.
Really? That's why I said if you removed the dive VR element from it, you would be left with no human element. There would be no human stake. There'd be no reason to do anything.
Well, I mean, the show is obviously very focused on its main character because he's supposed to be the guy who all the audience members are like identifying with.
He was King Nerd.
Yeah, and he's like, he's got like a really cool cape or whatever, and like a skull body
and staff,
and he has the ability to do a little coding.
He looks kind of like
whatever.
Kel'Thuzad.
What, from World of Warcraft?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they're both like skeleton, spooky guys,
skeletons,
right?
Yeah, masters of their domain.
But dude, they're all NPCs. Okay, but at the thing that I loved most about this show, I shouldn't say I loved. I don't think I really loved anything about this show. But my favorite part was the beginning, not the battle scene or whatever, where you've got some party of people who are challenging this dude. It's like a flashback.
Right.
They're challenging him, and then the screen cuts to black, and then they're all defeated or whatever because he's the best ever and no one can ever beat him.
Right.
Right after that, there's that scene where it's him sitting at the round table or whatever, and he's talking to that purple slime guy.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah, he's the one of the other guildmates. He's like the last one.
He's a human.
Yeah.
And I was very interested in the fact that the show cut away from that like kind of cheap looking battle with all the 3D skeletons and whatever, and the cop out of cutting away from the main fight. And right after that, it held. They put the camera on this slime guy for like, I don't know, 15 or 20 seconds and didn't move it away. And I was like, I love stuff like that. I love when shows or directors or whatever challenge you by showing something that's kind of like weird and unappealing and you don't really know what it is or you don't care for it. And they hold on it and just, convey information through dialogue or through the background or whatever. So I was like, as soon as I saw the slime guy and it was just him and you don't even know that it's the skeleton guy who he's talking to at this point because all you see is the slime. I was like, okay, I kind of like this. I kind of like how odd it is. But then the slime guy logs out. The guy's like, oh, it's the last day in the server. I guess I'm just going to edit this girl's, bio and she's going to be in love with me. Oh, Hazukashi, how embarrassing. Oh, no. Oh, can I touch your boobies? Oh. It was just like, I don't know. I know that there's a big market for this kind of show, but how much self-awareness is, how shallow is the pool of self-awareness in this market? All the people who are eating this stuff up, like season after season, year after year. I was not a fan.
Because it was the first episode of SAO where the major villain reveals himself and is like, this is the plot. This is what's going to happen. We don't know that yet in Overlord. We're like, okay, I can't log out. But we don't know why he can't log out. And we don't know what the motivations of someone stopping him from being able to do it is.
R
is whatever. The English language is complicated.
R. Yeah.
I don't think there's really much more we could say about this.
I mean,
unless you had something you wanted to say.
I see him. I'm looking over here at my screen for my notes. I see I wrote boobs LMAO.
Trapped in a video game, LMAO.
Yeah, that's my note taking tends to devolve into a lot of LMAOs after.
Is this that staff only you can wield? Yes, this is the Staff of Legend. Allow me to list its features for 20 seconds while you stare at it in CG wonder.
Yeah, it was the thing where he describes the staff to the two elf kids or whatever. You remember they have like a blue eye and a green eye.
Yeah, and they're reversed on each other.
Like there's one boy, one girl, and they're like fighters.
They're twins.
When he described the staff, that's just it's pretty bad. I didn't like it.
Well, we'll see.
But we're gonna give it a few more episodes. We might end up watching the whole thing. Maybe the first episode's bad and it gets good. I doubt it.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, what's next?
Let's go to another one of our seasonal shows. What do we want to do here?
Pick one of those. I guess I'll pick because you just picked Overlord. You just made me talk about it for 10 minutes.
Sorry about that.
Let's do Children of the Whales, I guess.
Okay, the Papyrus background show.
Right. I wrote down that the visuals look really storybook to me. And you mentioned that it looked like everything had been drawn on papyrus.
Yeah, everything except the characters.
Why did you think that? Like, I was interested in that.
It felt like there was like a texture to the paper that had been drawn on. Because papyrus is a very thick, pulpy kind of paper.
Right.
And you can see it. You can see a texture when you look at it, which is everything kind of looked like it was like a watercolor background on a textured piece of paper.
I don't think the backgrounds were watercolored. I think they were, and I kind of think the opposite. I think
mean, like, by how bright they were. I don't mean it didn't look like it. Babby's first painting.
Well, I mean, a lot of anime actually has watercolor backgrounds. So when you use that terminology, kind of throws me for a loop there.
Okay, well,
but it wasn't watercolor. I think that the visuals were, like, the backgrounds were really well defined. They were drawn with a lot of thick lines, which is not characteristic of anime. A lot of anime's backgrounds, they're
subtle.
Well, yeah, they're just watercolor, or they don't have those thick lines the same way that the characters do. In this show, the backgrounds are really detailed, and they use
that pop.
Yeah, and the characters, you may have noticed, they had really thin lines around their faces and their clothing, and they kind of seemed slight, as though they would, like, blow away at any moment.
They kind of blend into the background.
I don't know if they blend in.
Rather than standing out and being the forefront, it's taken as, like, one image.
I guess I see what you're saying. I would just phrase it as the characters have less visual impact than the backgrounds.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying kind of about the papyrus thing. I'm kind of interested in phrasing it that way. Like, whenever there was a shot of the sands were, like, shifting.
The sand was CG.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. They wouldn't have put, all those man hours and all those drawings into
sand.
Yeah. We have computers now that can do that stuff for us. I liked the background visuals.
Yeah, I thought they were cool.
They were cool. In fact, I think that may have been the best thing about the show.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't in love with this. Like, it was cool.
Is cool bad? Is cool bad now?
No, cool's good.
Because I thought it was.
What did you think it was?
What did I think it was? Well, from just the first episode, before. Wait, we just only watched the first episode. It felt like 2 episodes because so much happened.
That's a good point. It moved really fast. Well, that's a problem that a lot of modern anime have or has. Is that they only get 12 or 13 episodes to tell their story, and they're trying to give you let's say the first novel in a series. They're trying to get through a novel's worth of information, or plot or whatever. And this show definitely, I think, suffered because of that. I mean, they start off with the funeral. They're at their old teacher's funeral.
Don't cry.
Yeah,
crying is bad.
You can't cry because
you'll die.
No, you're not gonna. They do say something like that, don't they?
They kind of insinuate that crying will lead you to, like, the depths of the sand, which is basically death.
Right. And I mean, the reason they have that tradition, the reason, like, their whole culture is based around emotional repression, because their telekinetic abilities, which they call, I forget, what does it say over there?
Thymia.
Yeah, thymia. So the people who are marked, they have those telekinetic abilities.
And they only live for like 30 years.
Yeah, something like that. But the idea is that you're not supposed to be emotional because your emotions are what you use. Like, that's how you use your power. You harness your emotions in a kind of very cold way. So you can't afford to cry when your friend dies. You can't afford to get even too happy about anything. You can't really, like, be joyful or get angry. You just have to be, like, objective all the time and put your emotions towards your work.
Which struck me as strange, especially when further on in the episode you find out that the girl they find on the other island turtle,
the driftland. Yeah, you're really hung up on.
I'm really hung up on the island turtle because it just reminds me of, because the visuals kind of remind me of the episode where they see the first Avatar. They're storybooky.
I can't even recall that.
They're
that too well.
Strikingly different visuals for that episode.
Sure, but I don't remember. He's talking about Korra.
Yeah, the Legend of Korra.
For all you anime purists out there
that refuse to watch something made in Korea.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Korean animated.
I know that the original was.
I believe that one was as well.
Okay.
But there is in that show there are creatures called island turtles where people live on them, and they're islands that are turtles.
Yeah,
and
but
they're
not
mud
island
whales.
turtles. Yeah, mud whales.
Ooh, such a huge difference.
Well, the thing that you're talking about, the place where they find the other girl, is called the Driftland.
Right.
That's what they call it.
Which is I can't tell if it's basically another mud whale.
I think it is.
And they only refer to it as a driftland because that's what it's obvious the elders are just like blinding everybody.
Yeah, there's some kind of big conspiracy, which was kind of tacked onto the episode at the last minute. Like,
right,
the guy
conspiracy, steal, run away.
Yeah, that's one of the things that bugged me the most about the episode was that the main character Chakuro, he was first of all, hold up. Hold up. There's a rainbow, right? A rainbow appears in the sky. And so because of that, they have to release a bunch of criminals from prison. Just because there's a rainbow. Like they just take the rainbow as being a sign, not even from God or from their deity or whatever. There just was a rainbow, and now these terrible criminals have to be let out of prison.
Rain is a good omen. A good omen because of like how much they need rain because they needed to fill their reservoirs. And so and that means
but just because a rainbow indicates the presence of rain,
right?
Just because it's a good omen, why do you have a tradition of letting criminals go free associated with that? I didn't understand, but you know what? That's just part of their culture, so whatever. So let's say that that's fine. I don't really think it is, but let's say that that's fine. Then the bad guy, Oni, they call him,
uber criminal.
Yeah, he's like the worst of the lot or whatever.
The most powerful of all the
criminals. What are you looking at? Okay, but
Thymia users.
Sure, yeah.
He has the most chakra. I mean Thymia.
He's the worst of the bunch, right? And I mean his name is even Oni, which in Japanese means like devil or demon.
Right.
It's spelled differently, at least in the subtitles that I got, because this show was picked up by Netflix, so it hasn't been like officially released yet. So you have to get fan subs, which are being done by Senshi, who are the same group that did the Little Witch Academia fan subs earlier this year, and they're doing really great work. So I assume that the way they spelled Oni is the way his name's actually spelled, but nevertheless, like his name is Oni. It's going to mean demon or devil. That's why his character's named that. So whatever, that digression aside, the guy gets out because there's a rainbow, and he kidnaps Chakuro, and he kidnaps the girl. I forget what they end up naming her.
He doesn't kidnap Chakuro.
Yes, he does. He grabs him by the waist.
He does, but at the end when they're leaving, he's like, do you want to... It's like, I need somebody to guide me. He could have said no.
Okay, that's the point that I was building to. Why was the main guy so willing to go with this terrible criminal?
I feel like... Because he's an archivist, or
yeah,
sure, let's go with that. He's an archivist. He has to write and cannot write with emotion, and is burdened to write everything.
Right.
And he mentions how like there aren't many records from people before me.
Right.
For some reason.
He wants to know like why their ancestors came to the mud whale and all that stuff.
Right. So basically answers that it's obvious the elders have held back and destroyed records or removed or had them not recorded in the first place.
Right.
Etc. Etc. So
did you just roll your R's when you said etc.?
Etc. Yes, I did.
Oh gosh.
And I think that's one of the reasons he wants to go across with evil make evil face.
Sure.
Because he wants to learn, wants to know more, and there's no information about this kind of thing, and about, this is the first person they've ever seen from a driftland.
Right.
Something I was building to before that I had never said was, they're supposed to be emotionless, can't write with emotion, all that stuff, and they're shocked when they find someone who's devoid of emotion. They're like, "This is terrible." What?
You're talking about the fact that the girl is like completely stoic and
she's like devoid of emotion. A person who's devoid of emotion. There's like a name for it. And they're like, "This is terrible. The outside world hasn't changed." Like, But you tell all of your people to not have any emotion. Why
is that what they said? Like that because I remember them saying like the outside world hasn't changed,
and that's how they could tell
because she's completely emotionless.
Yeah.
Okay, so, so the people on the Mud Whale have, I guess, evolved somehow and gained emotions,
Possibly.
and that was something that they weren't supposed to do, and that's the secret that the council is covering up.
I don't know.
Huh.
Stay tuned to find out.
Yeah. Didn't you do that voice in the after Mahoutsukai no Yome too? You did the stay tuned thing.
I don't know.
All right. I guess we can.
That's my voice, and I'm sticking
Sticking to it.
sticking to maniosis. All right, I think we've rabbled about Children of the Storybook.
Have Children of the Whales.
Stories, children.
Have we?
Have we?
I don't know.
Was there anything else you want to talk about it?
I wasn't sold on him going with the. I mean, what you're saying makes sense. Like he wants to discover the truth for himself. Sure, but the way that scene progressed was the guy's like, oh yeah, you're gonna come with me. You have to come with me now. You're gonna come with me, right? Because we're gonna go over there and we're gonna see what the truth is. And he's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, okay, sure, yeah. I don't know. Just the fact that this all happened in the first episode, it really didn't give me enough time to process his drive to learn the truth. I just wish I knew the characters better. I wish I knew Chakro better, so I would really feel his desire to go to this other place.
Right.
Rather than it being like, okay, well, this is a good place to end the first episode, I guess, because we got to get through, like weeks of action or plot or whatever in these 13 episodes.
Sure.
I just felt I felt like it suffered for its pacing. But I do like the way the show looks. So
it's got that going for it.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, there has to be one thing that you like about an anime in order to keep watching it. I'll just stop watching after an episode if I don't like something.
It's like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
This is hot garbage.
If you've seen enough of it, you don't want to spend too much time on something you're probably going to end up hating.
Yeah, that's true.
So now we can do Hellsing Ultimate. This is the 2006 OVA.
Yep, and this it was an hour or 50 minutes.
Yeah, each episode is going to be long. Maybe they won't all be the same. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, it's an OVA, right? So it's going straight to video. They're not beholden to any time restrictions or requirements.
Besides budget.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they'll all be 50 minutes, but this one was, and it was. I thought it lulled me. It lulled me a little bit to sleep near the very end.
Near the end.
I stuck with it for most of it, but in a show where there's so much violence and gore, I actually hesitate to use the word gore because a lot of the like chest wounds and stuff, they're just like glowing red spots, and then blood definitely like sprays out of some of their wounds, but you're not seeing any like organs or anything, at least as far as I remember. For a show with that much violence and that much like intensity to it, that much action, I wasn't expecting to kind of be tired by the end. I do think that I enjoyed it, but so I don't know why I'm leading with this.
I liked it. I mean, it's got one of my favorite types of visuals in anime, that kind of like dark lined, gritty kind of look to things.
Yeah.
Which is something I think is cool, and especially it's set in like, I don't know, modern day London, Ireland for the last half of it, or England and Ireland so far.
Yeah, because the
Hellsing organization is
they fight for the Protestant Church in
in
England. And what's the name of the other organization?
The 13th, the special division, the 13th. They're Iscariot from the Vatican.
Right, and they're based out of Ireland, I guess.
The Vatican is based out of Ireland.
No, I'm saying that the people, the Iscariot members who we saw, they were in Ireland.
No. They were in Rome. They went to there because that's like they talked about it, how they have like a treaty as to which lands each of them kind of go after.
Right. And Ireland is supposed to belong to Iscariot.
No, Ireland is supposed to belong to Hellsing.
Yeah.
That's the point of her going there.
That's yeah.
About that.
I remember the woman. What was the main girl's name? Or
Well, her last name's Hellsing.
right. I remember every time the vampire guy was referring to her, he used all four of her names.
All four names, yeah. Or every time the vampire guy.
Yeah, well, she was like Alucard, Alucardo. She was. I remember she said, "Yeah, this is our property. You guys need to scram or whatever."
Right.
But when Alexander was talking at the church before he went over there, Alexander being the Iscariot member, he was receiving instructions to go over there because that was like their territory.
Right.
So there's I mean, Hellsing are the good guys, so we're supposed to assume that it's actually their land.
Well, they're technically both good guys because they both try to root out monsters and evil sort of things like that.
Yeah.
But they don't like each other because they're Protestants and Catholics.
Yeah. That's such a weird premise.
How's that weird premise? There were the Crusades for a reason.
Yeah, but
and the Reformation and Martin Luther and there's bad blood between them. It didn't obviously escalate to the point of
the Crusades wasn't
I know that
Protestants versus Catholics.
I know it was.
You done goofed there.
It was just Catholics.
I don't even actually remember. Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah, just the Holy War in Islam.
Right.
But yeah, they didn't have that level of animosity going in towards the, now with like helicopters and guns.
I just thought it was odd.
You thought it was odd?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird for anime to be set somewhere that isn't Japan. First of all, it's weird for there to be. I wouldn't say a focus on Christianity, but it's certainly present.
A focus on religion.
Yeah. Is there even really a focus on religion? I mean, I know that the guy melted down a cross from some church to make his silver bullets.
Right.
But is there really that much of a focus on religion apart from the characters just yelling at each other like, you damn Catholics, you dirty Protestants. There's not like...
Well, one of the characters is from the Catholic Church. He's essentially like an exorcist,
right.
Like a special division from the Vatican. And he like binds rooms with like pages from blessed scripture books and uses like crosses as weapons and stuff. So there's obviously like a bunch of,
there's religious
themes
and imagery and stuff, but I don't know how much it was about religion.
No, I don't think it's necessarily about it. I think it's a device.
Yeah, the show is about vampires and ghouls and just like shots of guns being fired in slow motion and blood being everywhere and all the girls having uniforms that are unrealistically, tight.
Right.
That's what the show is about. It's not really about religion.
No. I thought it was cool though. I enjoyed it.
I want to say that I enjoyed it, but it was like, oh man, there were a lot of shots of guns firing in slow motion, dude. I was tired of it after the first one. I didn't need
almost
another.
All of them. It kind of reminded me, and I don't know if you've seen many movies by him, but it kind of reminded me of like a John Woo film.
I couldn't even name. I mean, I could name John Woo films, but I couldn't name one that I've seen.
Face Off.
No, I haven't seen Face Off. I know that's John Travolta and Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, it's like a classic, but it's very John.
Is Face Off really a classic though?
Face Off is a classic. Yes, absolutely.
You've been using the word classic a lot in the last.
It's a classic.
I don't think Face Off is a classic. I think it'll be forgotten in 100 years. I mean, I can't say that. I haven't seen it, but
no, but it's okay. Maybe a cult classic then. I don't know. Anyways, back to the show at hand.
So what was the girl's name?
The girl's name? Police Girl.
Yes, yeah, he keeps calling her Police Girl, but her name is like Victoria, I think.
Something like that. She says her name and he's like lol. He says her actual name.
Don't say lol.
He says her actual name once.
It's like Saris Victoria.
Yeah. And then
So I have a question about her.
Okay.
Like, so obviously the show establishes that if you're a virgin and you get bitten by a vampire, you turn into a Dracula or a Draculina.
Right.
But if you're not a virgin, you turn into like a mindless ghoul.
Right.
And then the ghouls can be controlled by the vampire who bit them, right?
Right.
Okay, so she, as a virgin, maintains her free will after getting bitten. She turns into a Draculina or a vampiress or whatever.
Right.
So why, like, 2/3 of the way through the episode.
Is she calling him master?
Yes.
That's a good question. There is... I don't know if it'll be explained further, but in other vampire mythos, when a vampire creates another one, if vampire A is more powerful than created vampire B, then vampire B is their thrall. Essentially just like a slave to them.
But is she a slave? I mean, it seems in some moments like she has total control of herself and
others
is her own person or her own vampire or whatever.
It's also possible that she calls him master out of, I don't know, respect for him, quote unquote, saving her life.
Right, killing her nearly and then saving her life.
Right. It's like, I'm just gonna shoot right through you.
That scene
and
was
turn you into a vampire.
That scene where he's like, "Are you a virgin?" What? Are you a virgin? What?
What? Just answer the question.
No, not just answer the question. Don't like. I was cringing, dude. Like, what? If I'd been taken hostage, and my potential savior was choosing to interrogate me. Take that line of questioning. I would be like, what are you doing? Just do a cool move and curve the bullet and shoot the guy in the head and leave me out of it. He would have been, he could have killed the other guy, right? Without killing her.
I don't know. With the vampire's reflexes.
I mean, I'm just speculating that that's something he would have been able to do. Because the guy's got like godlike powers, right? If his head gets cut off, it doesn't matter.
If he pierces his heart, it doesn't kill him either. Yeah. He's like Ultra Satan.
Yeah, except he's working for the Protestant Church.
He's created.
For the forces of good!
He was created by them as well. Supposedly.
Yeah.
They mention it at some point.
I mean, maybe it is, maybe her whole thing is, maybe she is in thrall to him, or whatever, like she, despite being her own person and having her own will and agency, maybe she does just acknowledge him as like her superior or her master or whatever.
Right.
Because the show does follow a lot of the traditional rules of vampire mythology, I think. They mention stuff like turning into a bat or turning into fog, which is pretty obscure. And there's the whole thing about silver bullets and all that. So,
and vampires are the older a vampire is, the more powerful they are.
Right.
Because that's how most mythological creatures work. The older you are, the more power you get. So much blood, slow-mo gun animation, etc.
Yeah, that's there really was just like I got nothing from the shots of the guns going off like in slow motion and the CGI being used for it. I just didn't get anything from it. Like they showed the names of the guns.
Well, they didn't show the names of the guns. They showed the caliber, which he uses a .454 Castle.
Dude, the fact that you
it's a very large bullet.
I'm not a gun guy.
And a normal human holding something like that in their hand, it would snap their wrist if you fired it.
Okay.
The same thing with the rifle she's using. It's a 13.7 millimeter tank Gewehr.
Yeah, she actually remarks like, why am I feeling so little recoil when I shoot this thing?
Because that gun in real life weighs like 80 pounds, and the bullets are the size of my face.
Yeah. I'm now imagining a gun that shoots just your head. That's like the projectile.
I mean, you never know. That could be a real thing.
No, I do know, and it isn't. It's not real. I liked this show. I think it was cool, but I don't know how if I'll like the next 9 episodes as much as I like this one.
And there was the shadow government.
What's this?
The shadow government, or the people that are behind turning vampires.
Oh yeah, I actually while I was watching this, I realized, oh yeah, this is like
the end of Eva's second episode.
No. Is it at the end of Ava's second episode No, it's at the beginning, I'm pretty sure.
That conversation happens more than once, I think. Okay.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's
right.
there's like a monarchy or something. And I think I wrote down somewhere that it's like probably a bunch of businessmen who want a war to start between the Catholics and the Protestants in order to war profiteer. So that's my guess. I don't have any evidence for that. I think I've seen this before, but I do not remember.
Oh, you think you've seen it before?
I think I've seen some of it.
Okay. Well, there's definitely some kind of conspiracy going on.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's an epidemic of people getting turned into vampires.
Blast control.
There's an epidemic of people being turned not into gay frogs, but into vampires. At a rate that surpasses
3 times higher than normal.
Right. Like
what they say.
Or an ordinary vampire or a group of vampires working alone wouldn't be able to do it. So it's obviously organized. And I mean the good guys are the Protestants, so the bad guys are probably going to be the Catholics. I don't know.
Who knows? All right, we got one show left.
Inuyashiki.
We got Old Man CGI.
Yeah. The CG was pretty... I mean, it's necessary, right? Because he's got a robot body.
Yeah.
You can't draw that by hand.
Especially not with the incredibly detailed, like, the insides are. Like, when you see the exploded view of, like, his arm and his back, I mean, there's just pieces everywhere.
Yeah. They would have to really simplify it in order to draw it by hand.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with the CG, even though there are some scenes where I'm just like...
Why did you use CG for that?
Yeah, like a shot of him... just
missing that ant.
Just... Oh, yeah, the opening scene.
The opening shot, yeah.
Yeah, that definitely looked like some PS2 graphics.
I thought they did a really good job making you feel bad for Inuyashiki.
I mean, of course they did. They just took every possible opportunity they could to shit on him.
They're like, your wife doesn't love you, your kids hate you, they hate the house you built. You're old, you have cancer.
Yeah, you look like you're 80 even though you're 58.
And then you die.
Yeah. But at least he has a dog.
Which is also CG half the time.
Yeah, no, I think all the time. I think the dog is 100%
it's possible.
animated.
Sometimes it's hard to tell.
I feel 100% confident in that statement.
I don't know. You've seen a lot more anime than I have, so I think sometimes... Yeah. Like for the opening shot, when he steps out, I mean, I could tell the ant was CG, but when he steps down and you see his legs, I thought that was hand-drawn.
I don't remember what his legs were.
Anyways.
So his life is literally garbage.
It's like, oh man, we weren't supposed to land here, but Bob, you took the wrong turn.
You're talking about the aliens.
Yeah, the aliens. They're just like, wait, we didn't mean to crash here. Quick, rebuild them. Make sure no one ever notices.
Right, but they use what they call weapon units.
Oh, we have our weapons units. Use that, but it'll destroy their planet. Use it anyways. Okay.
Yeah, not the most graceful plotting of all time.
No. And then you got gang of teenagers. Oh, let's go kill this homeless dude.
Right. No, the part that I really loved about it was that the homeless man had just gotten the news that he was going to be able to live with his wife again, and he had gotten a job. And he was all set to...
He's like, I have a job. I'm going back with my wife. What's he saying? I don't know. I can't hear him.
Not only do we have a gang of teenagers, like bat-wielding teenagers who are going to kill this guy. So we're already at a 0 out of 10 on the subtlety scale. But of course he has to be like, a good bum, a reformed bum.
Right.
A soon-to-be ex-bum. That whole bit was just kind of silly.
Then he's like, I'll save you, passes out, robot eye.
Yeah, that was interesting to me. He shoots all those lasers at him while he's unconscious.
Right.
He shoots
the computer does it.
Yeah. So he shoots all those lasers which stun or disarm the kids or whatever.
And they're just like,
and then
nope.
the little camera in the back of his head. Kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We haven't described led up to this point. Anyway.
Yeah, we have.
Oh, that the aliens just give him a robot body?
Yeah, and that his family hates him.
Yeah, I guess.
And he tries to call everyone to tell them that he has cancer, and
right.
No one picks up their phone.
Yeah.
And is something wrong, dear? No.
Yeah, that's hard to watch. But the thing that I'm interested in is like, so if he's unconscious while this camera in the back of his head is identifying who all the kids are and like hacking their social media accounts and posting video
And then
of what
hijacking
happened.
every television.
Right. Yeah. So I mean that's totally implausible. But he's got alien technology or whatever. The real question is, if he was unconscious while this is going on,
Why did it do that?
Yeah,
Why
so-
didn't it kill all of them?
well, yeah, that's a good question.
Is
Actually,
it-
why didn't it kill all the?
If
the
it's a
kids?
weapons platform, why didn't it just like blow them up or something similar? Is it basing its actions on his brain,
That's-
on his morality?
That's what I wanted
essential?
to get to. Like, well, first of all, when you're unconscious, your brain's still working, right?
Right.
It's as though you're asleep, but your brain is still doing stuff. So was his new robot body, was it drawing on his, like you said, his morality and his consciousness in order to make informed decisions about what he ought to do, or is there like a second? Does he have a second brain or like a second consciousness that operates kind of independently?
Don't know. Because we see when his head comes apart at one point, there's just like a little ball in the top.
Right.
Which is, I'm assuming, the CPU core.
Right, it's supposed to represent his new brain or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so I wonder whether, there's been a fusion of the alien technology and his brain, or whether they're kind of existing separately.
Right.
That'll be interesting.
Especially when it introduces the second character to see how the computer that he's been built with responds to him.
Right,
And
and that's
what's his morality.
a lot of the buzz about this show. I mean, because we're already like 4 or 5 weeks into the new anime season, so 4 or 5 episodes of Inuyashiki have come out,
Right.
and we've only seen the one. But a lot of the buzz about the show has been based on the strength of the second episode, which focuses on the kid.
Right.
So that's something we didn't mention, is that like when he's crying and holding the dog,
There's someone else in the park.
In the park, where the alien spaceship like materializes and displaces their bodies, and kills them as a result. There's a teenager, there's a kid there. So he's also gotten a weapon system robot body, and he is the focus of episode 2, and he apparently he's like the most dynamic and the strongest character. So
Rather than just poor me, my family hates me, my
Yeah.
next door neighbor has a cool house and a Ferrari.
Yeah, did you notice? This might not be something you would be able to identify, not having like read a lot of manga or watched a lot of anime, but the guy's name was Oda, and during the scene where none of his family members are picking up their phones to get the news that he has stomach cancer.
It's like, you moved in next door to Oda.
Right. And one of the girls says to his daughter, Oda's dad is a famous manga author.
Right.
Eiichiro Oda is the guy who writes One Piece,
Oh, okay.
which is like the most successful manga in the world, and maybe of all time. That's probably wrong because Dragon Ball exists, but so I think that guy was supposed to be Eiichiro Oda, who was driving in the Lamborghini or
It's
just
a
convertible.
Ferrari 458.
Okay, you are going to be really useful for identifying guns and cars. I don't know anything about any of that stuff.
I'm a gun and car guy. Those some of the things I like.
In addition to anime, am I right?
Anime.
Yeah, anime's the best.
I love me some Chinese cartoons.
Yeah, me too. I love animated Mongolian cave paintings. They're my favorite. So that's Inuyashiki. It was cool. I mean, I thought the visuals were below average. I thought the storytelling was ham-fisted, but most anime is like that. And at least it has an interesting premise. And the character is not a male Japanese high school student. He's a 58-year-old guy who has a soul-crushing
Life.
office job and a family that doesn't care about him. and a dog, which is the only source of joy in his life.
And that he found that in a box.
Yeah. He did.
And the family doesn't even want the dog.
The only good thing in his life was something he just randomly found on the street.
His dog and his steaming robot body.
Yeah. So the steam is... Yeah, why was he steaming? Like, what would have caused that in his body?
He drank a bunch of water.
So it was letting out the water.
I was assuming it was just the heat, water, steam.
That makes sense, but I was thinking maybe that his body needs to release steam just as a byproduct of its mechanical processes.
I don't know. We don't know what powers it. It's alien technology, so
it probably just was the water that he drank. And his arm also spat out the food that he had yesterday, like all over his wall.
Yeah. It's like, what is this? I don't need this.
Right.
Get it out.
Exactly. I mean, because he doesn't have a stomach anymore. Because when he goes back in for the second screening,
he's just a blank wall.
Right.
They're like,
the technicians are like, is the machine broken? I'm wondering how they even how do you perform tests on a mechanical body like that?
You don't, or you can't.
Well, but he's going to the doctor's office, and they're probably pricking him with needles or to do
it's like in that
it's
like in that terrible Zack Snyder Superman film. The needles just bend.
Oh, I haven't seen any.
Man of Steel.
I haven't seen Man of Steel.
It was terrible.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, but at the end, he's they think he's dead, and they're trying to inject him with something, and the needle bends on his skin, and they try to do the clear thing, and the machine blows up, and just nothing works.
Wait, how does that make sense?
I don't know. That's just what happened. They go clear, and the machine blows up. I remember it very specifically.
Don't the paddles just discharge electricity?
Yes.
They wouldn't receive Superman's life force, would they?
I don't know. That's just what happened.
I mean, maybe I just learned something new about defibrillators. Maybe they... I don't know, dude.
They save the universe.
That seems really dumb.
Well, that's all the shows that we've decided to cover.
Right.
So, do you want to... Where would you put... Okay, I don't think I have to ask this question to be, which show was your favorite?
I mean, Evangelion... It's on my list of my 25 favorite anime series.
Okay.
I wouldn't say... I probably wouldn't crack the top 10. I'm not super in love with it. But as I said before, I do have a lot of admiration for it. And I do get a lot of... I mean, Evangelion is the kind of show that a lot of people can't get into because the characters aren't really likable or relatable. Mm-hmm. Even though I think Shinji's probably one of the most relatable teenagers in the history of animation. Given the circumstances that he's put into, he reacts, I don't know, the way I would if the fate of the world were on my shoulders.
The fate of the world rests on your shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably be withdrawn and antisocial and just whiny and stuff too.
So you'd be exactly the same way you are now.
Yeah, which is why I like the show so much.
Oh, that's good. But I'd have to say it was definitely my favorite.
Evangelion
of the 6 this week. Yeah.
It's the best looking. Despite how old it is.
I don't know terribly about that. I mean, it don't get me wrong, it is stunning, but I still think the Ancient Magus' Bride looked the best.
Yeah.
Out of all of them. But that's just a product of it being
22 years older.
Yeah, 22 years newer than
newer,
Evangelion is.
Not older. Yeah.
It's got a higher resolution. They've got more colors they can work with.
Well, the rip of Eva that we were watching was Blu-ray. I think.
So, I don't know. I'm sure it was
same resolution.
But yes and no, not really. Because if you originally designed something to show up in 640 by 480, you can't just all of a sudden be boom 1080p.
Well, I think you can with cell animation,
but the lines aren't as sharp. The lines are thicker because of just the size of how it was drawn.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll defer to you on that. No, I know more about anime, but not necessarily more about resolutions and.
I know about the technology stuff, but I thought
guns and cars, man.
Yeah, guns and cars, and it's about it. That's about it.
Guns, cars, and resolutions.
Yeah, that's good. What would you think was the worst of the 6?
Overlord.
Overlord was the worst?
Yeah, for me, that was my least favorite.
That was also my least favorite, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I feel like this is an idea that you and I were talking about before we got on the mic, was like maybe every 3 episodes or so we rank the shows, and whichever one we hold as like the lowest, let's say, for example, one of us ranks a show as the 4th worst and one ranks it as the 6th worst. And like combined,
It turns out to be
averaging
the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might like let that show go and pick up another one. So that would add like an element of freshness to the show every week, if this ends up being a weekly thing, which I think we intend for it to be.
Right.
So, but even though Overlord is not the best show of all time, it's not terrible enough that I can't watch 2 more episodes of it.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's pretty bad. And if you're listening to this and you like it, you should feel bad. But it's not, you know.
He's not sarcastic about that, by the way. You really should feel bad.
It's not like a 1 out of 10. Just unbearably cancerous.
It's like a 4.
Anime. I don't even know if I would give it a 4, dude.
Because a 5 is your average anime. And what is the average of anime? The average is trash.
Yeah, okay.
So it's above a 5 then.
Okay, wait, if 5 is average, then what's a failing grade?
A 1.
Okay, well, then I give the first episode a 1. Like,
Okay.
I think it was a failure.
Okay.
As a piece of
All right,
entertainment.
fine. As a piece of entertainment, you were not entertained.
No, I was not entertained. Entertainment is why I'm here.
That is the purpose of television. That is the purpose of inspecting mass entertainment.
Right, as we do here on the A.N.I.M.E. podcast.
It took us a whole week to think of that.
It took a long time, yeah. We went through several names, and who knows, we might have a different name next week. You'll have to tune in to find out.
See you next time.
Is that how we're signing off?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess it could be, since we have the power to edit the
Right.
audio.
Or I could leave all of this in.
You could. I mean, you're gonna be uploading it and like editing the audio and stuff, so I guess that's
Right.
gonna be up to you.
Yeah, huh?
Okay, bye.
See you next time.